Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our virtual Bulldogs Behind the Scenes, featuring guests from the Superior Hiking Trail Association. Well, my name is Molly Clevin, and I'm from the University of Minnesota Duluth Alumni Relations team. Today's event marks our 13th virtual tour of local industry leaders, and we couldn't be more excited to introduce our next guest. But before I do that, I'd like to highlight some of our past programs. We have explored places like the Great Lakes Aquarium, Glen Sheen Mansion, and the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. But we've also experienced sneak peeks of the UMD campus, including the newly renovated Romano Gym and a guided virtual tour of the campus. You can access all of these at our website, d.umn.edu/alumni. Today's webinar is sure to bring back some old adventurous memories as we learn about the Superior Hiking Trail and the team that makes it possible. Now to introduce our guests. We are privileged to have both Lisa Luokkala, Executive Director of the Superior Hiking Trail Association, and Jaron Cramer, the Development and Communications Director of the Superior Hiking Trail Association, with us today. Since August of 2020, Lisa has served as the Executive Director for the SHTA. Lisa has spent over 15 years in the nonprofit and the public sector, focusing her attention primarily on health equity and recreational land management. She holds a bachelor's in travel and tourism from Eastern Michigan University and a master's in advocacy and political leadership from the University of Minnesota Duluth. She is one of those UMD grads who fell in love with Duluth and decided to stay and make it home. Lisa embraces the four-season outdoor lifestyle and can often be found adventuring with her family on rivers, lakes, or trails throughout the upper Midwest. Jaron joined the SHTA staff in 2018 as Development and Communications Director after moving to Duluth from Seattle. Jaron is a graduate of the Program on Environment at the University of Washington and a passionate advocate for building a sustainable future. He is an avid trail user as a hiker, runner, and Nordic skier. He loves to garden and cook with foods grown locally. It is now my pleasure to welcome and hand it over to Lisa and Jaron.
Thanks for having us. Today, we will share with you the story of how a community of outdoor enthusiasts fell in love with the vision of connecting people to nature through a footpath along Minnesota's North Shore, and how that visionary love has become a very tangible, beloved recreational destination in our region of the country. Let's start first with where is the trail. The Superior Hiking Trail is a 300-mile natural surface footpath in Minnesota, following the ridgeline along the North Shore of Lake Superior. The Superior Hiking Trail is located on the traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe people. The trail extends from the Minnesota-Wisconsin border southeast of Jay Cook State Park through the city of Duluth, including through the heart of the UMD campus. And for those alums tuning in, more specifically, the Bagley nature area. And the trail continues along the North Shore of Lake Superior. It passes through 8 Minnesota state parks along the way. The trail's northern terminus is located at a 270-degree overlook above Pigeon Creek at the Canadian border. The trail is characterized by ascents to rock outcroppings and cliffs as high as 1,800 feet above sea level and descents into numerous river and creek valleys. The Superior Hiking Trail was born out of a love for hiking and the North Shore. The idea of the Superior Hiking Trail came from a feasibility study at the U.S. Forest Service to construct a long-distance hiking trail from Duluth to Thunder Bay. The Superior Hiking Trail Association was established back in 1986 to oversee the building and caring for the trail in collaboration with those public land managers and private land owners along the North Shore. It was built by contractors and volunteers through the 1990s and 2000s from the Canadian border to Two Harbors, Minnesota. Then the Duluth section was built from 2003 to 2007, and Duluth to Two Harbors from 2007 to 2013. And finally, the final pieces were the connection between Minnesota and Wisconsin state line, which were constructed in 2014 through 2017. Since it was quote unquote finished in 2017, the Superior Hiking Trail Association has refocused on giving the trail the love it needs to stay in great shape. This is restoring and improving sections and structures that have been worn down and are now in need of renewal. We'll share more on that a little bit later in the presentation as well. The trail has grown in visitorship over the years as hiking, backpacking, and trail running have become more popular recreation activities. The Superior Hiking Trail now sees tens of thousands of visitors each year, which means there's a lot of demand for maintenance and upkeep to keep the trail safe and enjoyable. In 2019, our 300 miles of trail joined forces with the North Country Trail Association to help them make a critical connection in their 4,600 mile footpath from Vermont to North Dakota. That means when you're on the Superior Hiking Trail, you are also officially on the Minnesota route of the North Country National Scenic Trail as well. I'm going to turn it over to Jaron, tell you a little bit more.
Thanks, Lisa. Another complicated, loving relationship on the Superior Hiking Trail is our relationship with water. So the trail largely follows the rocky ridgeline above Lake Superior, but it only touches the lake's shore on the Duluth Lake Walk and the Short Lake Walk and hopefully north of Grand Marais, which is pictured here. The big lake impacts so much of the environment through which the trail passes, but you'll mostly be looking at it from afar at vistas along the trail. A more frequent encounter with water are the hundreds of rivers, streams, and creeks that the SHT passes or crosses. In the early days, the trail was built from vista to water crossing to vista, so you can expect to cross creeks and climb to peaks throughout much of the SHT. This also presents a challenge to us to build and maintain bridges, boardwalks, and other structures to try to keep water off the trail and people on it. That means you can also expect to see raging waterfalls in the spring at places like Gooseberry Falls State Park, High Falls at Tetagooch State Park, and the Brule River at Judge C.R. Magny State Park, which is pictured here. And don't be surprised if you find many smaller, cuter waterfalls along the way too, like this one at McCarthy Creek, which is near Two Harbors, Minnesota. And when you're not passing water in motion, you'll meander along many resting bodies of water in the form of inland lakes, beaver ponds, and ephemeral pools. Many SHT campsites are located near these lakes as they provide reliable sources of water for SHT backpackers and long-distance trail users. In between those close-up encounters with water, the SHT climbs to peaks and vistas that allow you to admire them from afar, like this view of the Poplar River and this view of the Sawmill Creek from the Section 13 cliffs. It's also worth noting that the Superior Hiking Trail is wedded in holy matrimony, if you will, to the land. A critical relationship for the trail and the Superior Hiking Trail Association is with private landowners and public land management agencies along its route, including the U.S. Forest Service, the Minnesota DNR, the City of Duluth, and other county and city agencies. Without their partnership and permission for the trail to cross their lands, the SHT could not exist. And like any marriage, this relationship can be bumpy at times as private land changes hands and agency priorities shift. However, the most important thing that you can do as a trail user to help us respect these landowners is by staying on the trail and practicing leave no trace to reduce your impact while you're out there. We try to make it easy by providing clear signage throughout the trail. Blue blazes, a paint marking on a tree like this one, mark the main SHT. And white blazes mark spur trails. You'll also see other trail markers and directional signs throughout. We've also built many trailhead access points. There are over 50 trailhead parking areas where you can start your adventure on the SHT. Many of these trailheads allow overnight parking for backpacking trips, but make sure that you'll need a state park permit for any day or overnight use if you decide to park and access the SHT at a state park. Importantly, there are also 94 backcountry campsites on the Superior Hiking Trail that we maintain. These are shared campsites, so there's no reservation or permits necessary. Every one of these campsites features a fire pit, a latrine, and several tent pads for folks to be able to camp out. And just a quick note on those latrines. This here is our staff member, Tamer Ibrahim, our trail operations director, admiring a well-dug latrine. And it's worth noting that they're hard to dig and they've become a pretty major maintenance issue for us as they're being used more than ever before. So just a quick note that if you encounter a full latrine, please report it to us and don't use it. You should always plan to pack a trowel and be prepared to dig a cat hole if nature calls. Our staff and our volunteers who dig these will thank you for not using a full latrine. And I also want to note that we provide many trip planning resources to make sure you're prepared to go, and we'll show you those in just a moment. I'll turn it back over to Lisa.
How does the Superior Hiking Trail Association give 300 miles of trails the love it needs? We do this through a couple different ways. One is that we do have 4 full-time staff members and 2 part-time staff who are based out of our 2 Harbors headquarters, though most of our work right now is done from our satellite home offices since March due to COVID. Our staff cannot do this work alone. We rely on seasonal contractors and our dedicated board of directors to guide and oversee the organization. And let's not forget the volunteers. Volunteers are the heart and soul of the trail. Every year, the Superior Hiking Trail Association organizes hundreds of volunteers to help lop and clear the trail, to check on campsites, to freshly reblaze the trail, and to complete many other critical maintenance duties. In a normal year, there are over 8,000 volunteer hours contributed. We made the tough call this year to cancel events and scale back volunteer-led work, but we are revamping our volunteer programs to offer smaller, safer activities in 2021 based on the Minnesota Department of Health guidelines. If you are interested in learning more about what volunteering looks like on the SHT, we have an easy to use volunteer portal on our website to get you connected. In 2018, the Superior Hiking Trail Association launched the Trail Renewal Program, which is focused on addressing problem areas on the trail. Our priorities focused on trail user safety, reducing the trail's impact on the landscape, working with those lawfully wedded partners, those landowners and agencies, to keep our trail corridor intact. Which brings us to an example of our trail renewal projects. This is the Sawmill Creek Pond Boardwalk, which is located near Little Marais in Lake County, Minnesota. Much of the northern portion of the trail was built 30 years ago, so many structures have begun to fail. The association had to fast track some of these projects by hiring out professional contractors so that we can tackle the most complex projects in a timely manner. Here we have one of those structures that began to fail in 2019. There was no great location for a reroute, so we had to replace the existing structure. And as you can see, the boardwalk was severely compromised, and it was a challenge to cross for many trail users, many of which shared their tales on our Facebook page. A project of this scale takes a lot of time to complete. Once the problem is identified, it's up to us to make a clear plan to get it permitted by the land managers, in this case, Lake County, secure funding for the project, hire a contractor to build it, visit just a few more times to get all the details right, haul in various materials, and finally, after all of that, get to work. It's important that we give a lot of attention to detail to these types of projects. Our team and of staff and our contractors have to make sure that we take into account both our trail user safety and sustainability when building. We want these structures to last decades. As you can see from the video footage, this is not a place you want to go back and fix a mistake a few years later. Sawmill Creek Boardwalk area is a sensitive ecosystem near a beaver dam. So long gone are the days to ask for forgiveness instead of permission when working with landowners or managers to assure that we need to make sure that we're following their rules so we don't lose this critical access to the trail. This fall, we hired TrailSource, a professional trail building contractor, to build the new 400+ foot boardwalk on Sawmill Creek Pond. They used Wickcraft boardwalk product, which is made with a galvanized steel frame to guarantee to last over 100 years. You'll see that the decking is much more wider and level, which makes it easier for folks to cross. You can imagine being a backpacker with a heavy pack on your back trying to pass someone out there, or maybe snowshoeing and having room for safe footing during the winter. A project of this scale is usually done with grant funding, and this one was completed with the funds from the Minnesota Environment and Natural Resource Trust Fund, as recommended by the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, LCCMR. This fund has powered several trail renewal projects and activities in recent years for SHTA, and we have a few more of those grants awaiting approval by the legislature. If you'd like to see this boardwalk for yourself, you can access it by either the Lake County Road 6 or Lake County Road 7 trailheads. Speaking of funding, these are labors of love. The Environmental and Natural Resource Trust Fund is one source of funds that powers the large-scale renewal projects of the Superior Hiking Trail. Uniquely, it is the individual contributions of members and donors of the Superior Hiking Trail Association that provide the single largest source of revenue for our organization. Everyday hikers and outdoor enthusiasts express their love for the trail by donating to keep it maintained and protected for the next generation of users. LCCMR, Federal Recreational Trail Program, and other various state and local grant makers also help power the trail projects and volunteer activities. We also have a growing number of sponsorship programs, including business sponsor programs, including relationships with REI, Trail Fitters, Duluth and Cook County Co-ops, lodges like Bluefin Bay and Odyssey Resorts up the shore, trail races and other businesses who are stepping up to invest in the Superior Hiking Trail. And we welcome others to join in as well.
And if you're starting to wonder how you can plan your own Superior Hiking Trail adventure, the best place to start is our website, superiorhiking.org. Should be pretty easy to find on the internet. There, once you are on the website, you'll be able to find a few helpful menu tabs to quickly find the information that you're after. But given that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, we've created a COVID-19 page to give you up to date to keep you up to date on our rules and considerations for safe and responsible use of the SHT. And you're seeing here that there's quite a few options on our website to be able to navigate to when you have questions. We try to make this really easy for you to find the information that you're after. And as I mentioned a moment ago, with regard to COVID-19, we're really emphasizing that everybody takes a moment to read this page so that you can recreate responsibly on the SHT. We recently joined a coalition alongside many of our partners to promote these helpful tips to keep folks safe while you're recreating in the outdoors. So you'll see an image like this on several pages on our website, including here on our trail conditions page. This page has a wealth of information on problem spots, closures, and other considerations that you'll want to know about before you take off for the Superior Hiking Trail. We always advise that you check this page before you go for any updates. We also provide a helpful know before you go page. So at the end of this presentation, if you still have some basic questions about how to use the SHT, we have several pages here that explain the trail and what to do as a hiker, a runner, a backpacker, or a thru hiker. We also mentioned leave no trace earlier in the presentation, and it's an important set of principles to help you minimize your impact when you're in the outdoors. With more users on the trail these days, these tips are more important than ever before. And as Lisa mentioned, we also offer information on how to volunteer with us on the SHT. We've built a volunteer portal where you can go to sign up for more information on volunteering. And we recently created several training videos if you'd like to see what volunteering on the SHT is all about. And you can find those on our YouTube page as well. So if you're still with us and you're wondering, how can I give back? We make it easy for you to join the association as a member or donate directly to support our work. And if you have any questions for us, you can always reach us through our Contact Us page. Finally, we have a few really important resources for trip planning through our online trail store. Our guide to the SHT is a must-have. We offer a compact trail data book for more experienced users. And we recently published a trail atlas of detailed maps for the SHT. You can purchase SHT apparel to show your love for the trail in our store. And we also recently partnered with local craft makers in Duluth to create some really cool SHT gifts too, from handmade mugs from Duluth Pottery to holiday gifts from Frost River Trading Company. And so if you decide to visit the SHT in the next few months, please remember to plan for winter conditions. It does get cold here up north. You can also find some helpful tips for wintertime trail usage on our website blog. And before we wrap up, I just want to say a quick thank you to Marty Anderson of Anderson Multimedia and Tom Ritchie of Ritchie Media Group for providing the video footage that we shared earlier in the presentation. Both of them volunteered their services to us, which is yet another way that folks contribute to our organization's efforts. I also want to thank everybody for tuning in. We hope that you'll fall in love with the Superior Hiking Trail just like we have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Lisa and Jaron, for providing us a tour of the Superior Hiking Trail. The behind the scenes work is certainly impressive and provides meaningful context to the trail system. Now we are going to transition to our live question and answer portion of the webinar. So we're just going to switch our cameras on here and we'll get started. All right. Perfect. Well, we had a lot of questions submitted through the registration. So I think we'll start there. And then again, feel free to type in your question on the bottom of your screen and we'll try to get to them, as many of them as we can. So first question asks, what are the most popular segments of the trail? And are there segments that are less known that you would recommend?
Yeah, there are a couple spots on the SHT that I think have gotten a little bit viral in their popularity, especially with the role of social media and getting people in the outdoors. And while we're really glad that people are finding the trail this way, it's worth pointing out that those sections are kind of on the brink of being loved to death with usage. The most popular section is probably the Bean and Bear Lakes Loop. If you looked at hashtag Superior Hiking Trail on the internet, those are probably some of the images that you'll see. And while there's a good reason that people are heading out there, we really do encourage people to check out other sections of the trail and keep exploring. Another popular spot is the Split Rock River Loop, which is a little bit south of Silver Bay. Again, really frequently used section of the trail, and it shows in the tread of the SHT. So it's an area that will be a focus for us in our trail renewal and maintenance efforts. And if you're starting to look for places that maybe there are fewer folks, the general rule of the SHT is the further north you go, the fewer people that you're going to encounter. So, there are some really wonderful sections around Grand Marais, and then even further north as the trail heads up towards the Canadian border. I live in Duluth and right next to the UMD campus, and I use the SHT in town all the time, and I really encourage people to check it out. It gets good usage, but I've also had plenty of experiences where I see nobody else out on the trail, and you still have that remote feeling even here in the city.
Perfect. And as a follow-up to that question, wondering about places for shorter hikes that are possibly a bit more accessible.
Great question. We have here in Duluth, I'm also a Duluth native, as mentioned, but we have 3 looped hikes, and those are really geared towards those day hikers, those who might be new to the trail, so they get a sense of what it's like when they might choose to do a larger segment or section or try their first overnight backpacking trip. So Duluth is a great place to experiment and try out some of the terrain and get a sense of what you're going to experience further north as well.
Perfect. And then we actually had a clarifying question here. How does the trail run between Two Harbors and Duluth? Is it inland from Highway 61 or along the Scenic Drive?
It is inland.
Perfect.
And I'd add on that real quick too. That section from Duluth to Two Harbors is also one of those lesser traveled routes. It doesn't feature the same huge sweeping overlooks that is kind of classic to the northern portions of the SHT and even in Duluth, but it's a really enjoyable walk through the woods, and especially in the fall, there's a ton of variety of mushrooms and fall colors are popping in that area. So it's another great place to go and check out the SHT for a different experience.
And a little gentler terrain.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wondering about recreating on the trail. Is snowshoeing allowed?
Yes, it is. Yep, where we welcome winter use. Just note that not all of our trailheads are plowed. So I would just check our website for up-to-date information.
What if you only have one car available? Are there any sort of shuttle spots for people that are looking to do a bit longer of a hike?
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I always encourage out and back hiking. That's often how I do it. And it's a different experience going one way versus the other. So that's always a possibility. There are several private shuttle services that operate along the Superior Hiking Trail if you're planning to go a longer trip one way. We host a list of some of those services on our website. We have a shuttles page where you can find contact information with the shuttles. Most of them run from May to October, so it's kind of the prime trail use season, and only a couple operate during the winter, I believe. And I always recommend folks, if you can schedule in advance, do so. The last couple of years, as the use of the trail has increased, those services have gotten pretty busy, and their schedules tend to book up pretty quick. So always good to be prepared and plan in advance.
Perfect. And then we have a question about camping and permits. Are permits required? And how does someone go about getting a campsite along the trail?
Well, I believe Jaron kind of touched on this in his presentation. So we have 94 primitive campsites. We do not permit those. They are all come, all serve. So, you can, plan your trip accordingly, maybe do some research to find out what area or what section of trail might have the camping experience that you would like. They can often be quite full during peak season, to note that over weekends and such. So if you're looking for a more private camping experience, I recommend trying out one of the state parks or Forest Service campgrounds. The intent of our campsites are really meant for the through hikers, the people who are out there and doing a larger section of the trail. And so, they can, they're pretty typical primitive campsites, pretty basic, and they range from small, meaning, can fit a couple tents, or and then we do have a couple larger group campsites. More information on that can be found on our website or in our guidebook.
Okay, perfect. Wondering if there's any portions of the trail that's used for cross-country skiing.
No, we don't have any that are groomed for cross-country skiing. Jaron, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, there are a couple sections of the SHT, particularly around state parks, where our trail co-aligns with a cross-country ski trail for a short bit, and Jay Cook State Park is a great example. Unfortunately, when those ski trails are groomed, we ask all trail SHT users to stay off those groomed ski trails to give skiers their couple month season of being able to enjoy those trails. And that is, a rule that's enforced by the state parks as well. And there's pretty clear signage. We indicate it in our guidebooks and on our website as well. So I'm a cross-country skier too. I wouldn't really recommend cross-country skiing on the SHT because it wasn't built for that. But I suppose someone could get pretty wild if you're enjoying some backcountry skiing out on some of those public land sections.
And we have a question here wondering more about the Boardwalk Trail in Lake County. Is it good during the winter time and accessible?
That's a great question. From the Lake County Road 6 trailhead, you actually climb up a pretty steep path to the Section 13 cliffs before descending from those cliffs down to that Sawmill Creek Pond to experience the boardwalk. So it's kind of treacherous in the winter if there's deep snow, if it hasn't been packed, or if it gets icy. The easier option would be to come from the Lake County Road 7 trailhead, where there's still a little bit of up and down, but it should be much more level to be able to go out and see that beautiful boardwalk and that huge beaver pond. It really is stunning. There's a good reason. There's a reason why we invested in replacing that structure, to give people a chance to experience it. So I would come in from the Lake County Road 7 side to see it in the winter.
Wondering about, is there any part of the trail that's part of the ultra marathon?
We have multiple trail races on the Superior Hiking Trail. So we work with the land manager. In some cases, it's Forest Service or DNR or the city of Duluth, who host various races. So there's race series down here in the Duluth area, and then there's also race series further up the shore as well. We typically will have, you might be able to find a little bit more information on our website about what races are most typical, but they are run separate from our organization.
Yeah, I'd echo what Lisa said there. We try to alert trail users to major events on the SHT on our calendar, and even through our social media channels as well, so that you're not surprised to see a couple hundred, huffing, puffing trail runners coming past you when you're trying to enjoy some solitude in the woods. So we try to keep people in the loop there. And some of those trail events have become great sponsors of the SHT, giving back to support our operations and volunteering with the trail. So it's a mostly symbiotic relationship.
This question asks, how many individuals have completed the entire trail? And then there's a part 2 to that question, wondering what is the most difficult hiking section of the trail?
Boy, that is a great question. And I wish that we had a good answer for the number of people who have completed it. Unfortunately, we don't. Just last year, we rolled out an end-to-ender program where people can apply for recognition for having completed the SHT. So I know we've captured a couple hundred folks who have through hiked the trail or completed by section hiking, but I'm sure there's more out there. So I would guess, if not hundreds, it's probably in the thousands. The SHT has been around for over 30 years now. And many people considered completing the trail to Two Harbors or even to the north end of Duluth, which was considered a traditional through hike of the SHT. Yeah, as far as Lisa, did you want to chime in on that?
I was just going to say the end-to-ender before the completion of the trail looked differently. So there's a moving target for those.
Yeah.
And we encourage people to come back and finish the segments that they may have not completed earlier in their hiking years.
And is there somewhere on the website where people can get more information about the end-to-end?
Yep, there's a specific page for it. If you go to our website, and I think it's under the Plan Your Adventure tab, there's an end-to-ender program listing there to be able to learn more. And as far as the second part of the question, the most difficult section, that's tough. And it really changes by the season too. In the winter, when things are snowy and maybe icy, anything with a steep elevation change can be pretty tough.
We can't control Mother Nature, and
yeah,
she kind of calls the shots on what your experience is out there. And so what may be enjoyable in September may be, really uncomfortable in June. We just never know year to year. And that's kind of the excitement of the Superior Hiking Trail, is that you never really have the same experience twice.
And I'd add to that, many trail users have reported, through hikers who have set foot on every section of the trail have reported that lake walk that we pictured in our presentation north of Grand Marais, where you're actually hiking on that pebble beach along the shore of the lake. It's over a mile long of hiking on that, and it's completely different, and in some cases more challenging than even some of the elevation change and rugged tread elsewhere. So be ready for some challenge everywhere you go, really.
Wondering about, kind of circling back to the bridge, wondering how bridges and boardwalks are constructed when they're so far back on the trails.
Well, we get creative. So you wouldn't think that a hiking trail would own a snowmobile, but we do. We use winter oftentimes to stage and move large pieces of equipment and material out to remote areas. We also, this is where our relationships with those landowners are so important. We refer to some access points, we call them wormholes. So they might not be public roads, might be along a private roadway, drive, etc., where we can get in. We've also, and I think this coming season, we're going to paddle, canoe out some materials to a remote location. So, you know, we use creativity. We rely on our agency partners to help us. Oftentimes they have the staff, the equipment, and the expertise to help move some of that larger material out as well. So it's, every situation is just slightly different, keeps it interesting.
We had another question going back towards the campground sites. Is the Bagley Nature Area Campground included in the 94 primitive campsites?
No, it's actually not an SHTA managed camping area, but it is a great option for folks who are backpacking through the city of Duluth, either on the way out of town or your way into town from the kind of last SHTA campsite north of Duluth, just a couple miles north of Martin Road. It's worth pointing out that there are no backcountry campsites inside the city of Duluth. So there's over 50 miles of the trail where you're not going to find one of our campsites. But Bagley Nature Area offers an option for SHT hikers. There's also a campground managed by the city at Spirit Mountain and a couple other camping areas throughout town. It's also a great spot to have a hotel for a night on a long trip and enjoy the comforts of modern society, to have a shower and eat some pizza and enjoy the experience of hiking through Duluth.
Well, I think we have time for just a few more questions here. This next question is wondering about sections on the trail that are located on private land. Wondering, are there sections that are at risk of losing landowner permission in that marriage kind of agreement? So wondering if you can respond to that.
Well, you know, over the course of the life of the Superior Hiking Trail, that those change, like as I mentioned, land ownership changes. So we are working very hard to secure the entire alignment. That looks a little different depending on landowner and their willingness to provide a permanent easement on their property. So that's an ideal situation which we can secure a permanent easement. Obviously, working with public landowners is a little bit easier, the counties and the state. Though sometimes their developments as well can impact our work. So we will remain flexible. I would say every year we have probably about 5 or so different areas that might be kind of questionable. And that's a big part of what our staff works on an annual basis, is negotiations and work on securing those easements so that we don't have to reroute the trail every couple of years. It's kind of the true behind the scenes work of the Superior Hiking Trail Association.
Perfect. And I think our last question here is wondering, are you wanting volunteers in 2021?
We do want volunteers in 2021. We are looking, as I mentioned in the presentation, we are looking at revamping our volunteer programs and activities to provide smaller, safer groups to go out and do work. We're also increasing the number of online videos and tutorials so you can get that training and orientation that you need to maybe go out and do some volunteering solo or in a small pod. So just visit our website. As I mentioned, we have a volunteer portal. You can read up on job descriptions of the different opportunities with SHTA. And yeah, we'll keep you posted as, again, we're all experiencing, changes with COVID guidelines, but we hope to see more folks out there in 2021.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both again for taking the time to share with us this exclusive look at the Superior Hiking Trail. Hopefully we're all able to get out on the trail soon. If you have other questions that weren't answered today, we have on this screen provided contact information for the SHTA, and a staff member will respond to your questions if you have them. Also, if you are not an alum of UMD and received this invitation from elsewhere, we do average about 1 to 2 of these virtual behind the scenes events per month. So if you'd like to be added to our email list specifically for these events, feel free to drop us an email and we will connect with you about that. It is with that. Again, thank you both, Jaron and Lisa, and hopefully everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.